My sister-in-law called 3 children in her care over 3 years and targeted my daughter next for inheritance money. But when I tried to expose her, she had me committed to a psych ward and turned everyone against me. So, I escaped and got her in the most nuclear way possible. My sister-in-law called 3 children in 3 years, and my daughter was next in line. Megan had been our go-to babysitter since she married my brother. I trusted her because she worked at a daycare with 5 stars on Yelp. But 3 years ago, when my nephew Tyler was in her care, he fell down the stairs at her house. Megan was the one to find the body and dial 911. By the time they came, it was already too late. At first, I agreed it was just an honest mistake until Megan scheduled the funeral service less than 24 hours later, before anyone could even process what happened. Even weirder, Tyler had been terrified of stairs since he was 2 and always scooted down on his bottom. When I mentioned this to Megan, her face contorted like she had bitten into a lemon. "What are you implying? That I pushed an effing 3-year-old down the stairs?" she snapped. I laughed it off and mumbled something about kids being unpredictable. But deep down, an awful gut feeling filled my chest. 2 weeks later, Megan showed up with a new Louis Vuitton bag and designer shoes, saying she got them at an estate sale. 10 months later, my cousin's daughter Emma died at Megan's house too, this time from an anaphylactic shock after peanut exposure. As soon as my cousin Janet broke the news, my insides turned to lead because I knew damn well Emma was allergic to peanuts. Heck, we all did. Janet constantly complained in the family group chat that Emma couldn't eat peanut butter sandwiches. The benefit of the doubt made even less sense when I went to visit Megan to see how she was doing. She could barely get out of bed, and her Instagram was riddled with photos of Emma, all captioned with broken heart emojis. Once Megan was back at work, I tried to subtly ask why she hadn't known about the allergy. She muttered something about how she must have gotten into something when she wasn't looking and couldn't even look me in the eye. That same month, she and my brother moved into a renovated Victorian house. Their family's income was around the same as mine, so it didn't make any sense. But I didn't want to gossip while the family was grieving, so I stayed quiet until Halloween last year, when my other nephew Mikey was getting ready for trick-or-treating at Megan's house because surprise, he drowned in Megan's pool. Apparently, he'd torn the pool cover off when she wasn't looking and jumped in. 3 dead children, all while in Megan's care. That was the moment I broke the silence and called my mom. When we finally got onto the topic of the 3 deaths, I said, "Don't you think it's weird they were all in Megan's care?" "Mildred, these were accidents," she interrupted. "Megan is devastated. How dare you even suggest otherwise?" I sighed and hung up. I tried my aunt next, then my dad. They all gave the same response. At Sunday dinner, when I barely touched my food, my brother pulled me aside. "The family's worried about you. Maybe you should talk to someone about these conspiracy theories." Even my husband thought grief was making me paranoid. That evening, I met my friend Jane, and together we realized something. Every death happened when my brother was conveniently out of town for work, and Megan always insisted on watching the kids solo. She was always the first to organize the funerals and have everything arranged like clockwork. I didn't want to bring this up to my brother, so I made Jane do it. Over coffee, Jane asked innocently, "So, did you really organize all 3 funerals?" Megan nodded, keeping her face neutral. "That's a lot of planning in such a short amount of time. It must have taken a lot of work." I watched her like a hawk, and for a second, her cheeks flushed red and her eyes narrowed. "Yep," she exclaimed before going to the bathroom. When she returned, she immediately changed the topic. 2 weeks later, Megan and my brother took a month-long vacation to Europe. They both quit their jobs to focus on family. When Megan offered to pay for a couple's getaway so my husband and I could grieve in silence, I almost said yes until I realized she wanted to watch our daughter Lily for the weekend too. My stomach dropped thinking about what happened to the other 3 kids. She kept insisting though, saying we needed a break. I ended up accepting, but only on the condition that I keep baby monitors around her house. The night before we left, Megan kept texting about all the fun activities planned. She seemed so excited that I felt guilty for ever questioning her. As I handed Lily into Megan's arms, my entire body trembled. As my husband and I drove to the airport, something amazing happened. I forgot to drop off Lily's special blanket. Using the spare key, I got into her house. Megan didn't hear the door open. I was about to walk into the living room when I heard her on the phone. "After this one, My kids will inherit everything from grandma's trust. 4 accidents are harder to explain than 3. But once Lily's gone, there are no other heirs. I froze, my hand still on the doorknob, my heart hammering so hard I was sure she'd hear it. I pressed myself against the wall, phone already in hand. Hitting record. No, the brownies are already cooling in the kitchen, Megan continued, her voice casual, like she was discussing a recipe. I crushed up enough cashews to make sure Lily would be allergic, just like Emma was to peanuts. My legs nearly gave out. I gripped the wall to stay upright as bile rose in my throat. Through the archway, I could see Megan pacing, her back to me. Trust me. I know what I'm doing. The boneadal is right there on the counter. If anyone asks, I'll say I tried to save her. She laughed, a sound that made my skin crawl. Just like Mikey's, the phone shook in my hand as I kept recording. Every instinct screamed at me to burst in there, but I needed evidence, real evidence no one could dismiss as paranoia. Listen, I have to go. Mildred just left, but Lily's in the playroom. I'll call you when it's done. She ended the call and started humming the same lullaby she'd sung at Tyler's funeral, Emma's funeral, Mikey's funeral. I backed toward the door as quietly as possible, texting David with trembling fingers. Call 911. Lily in danger. Come back now. But as I reached for the doorknob, I heard Lily's laughter from upstairs. My baby was here in this house with a killer. I couldn't leave her. I crept toward the playroom, staying close to the walls. My pulse raced as I heard footsteps above. Lily was upstairs, but to get to her, I'd have to pass through the living room. Taking a deep breath, I started up the stairs, each creak making me sweat. I was halfway up when a sweet voice called from below. Mildred, I thought you left. Did you forget something? I turned to find Megan at the bottom of the stairs, blocking my only exit. Her smile was warm, concerned even, but her eyes were cold. My phone's buzzing, David's calling back. I managed, my voice surprisingly steady. Oh, don't worry about that. I have an inhaler here. Come on down, I'll show you. She gestured toward the kitchen, where I knew those poisoned brownies waited. Lily, sweetie, Mommy's here, I whispered, my hand gripping Lily's as she bounded down behind me. Actually, we have a doctor's appointment, I said, pulling Lily toward the door. I completely forgot. Megan stepped in front of the door, expression sympathetic. Oh, Mildred, you look so stressed. Why don't you sit for a minute? The brownies are still warm. My phone exploded with texts. David stuck at airport. Security, Megan's messages. She'd found the monitors and knew I was listening. My blood ran cold. I had you sign the trip insurance documents giving me temporary guardianship, she said calmly. If anything happens to you. My voice was a whisper. What documents? She squeezed my arm, nails digging in. The ones David signed last month. Just in case. Tom's car pulled in. A man in a suit climbed out, an insurance investigator. Megan's grip tightened on my arm. Why don't we play while the adults talk? She said to Lily, reaching for her hand. I pulled Lily closer. The investigator spoke kindly. Mrs. Mildred, I need to speak with you about some policies. My head spun. Megan had forged every signature perfectly. My phone buzzed. You're having an episode. Read Megan's text. The family group chat lit up. Pray for Mildred's paranoid delusions. Jane arrived, bursting through the door, seemingly on Megan's side. I've been worried about Mildred. I tried to explain, but my cries sounded hysterical. The officers led me away for an evaluation. My last sight was Lily's confused face through the window at the station. Jane sat beside me. I asked bitterly, how much did she pay you? 60,000 for my loans. She said you were sick, Jane confessed. I watched fabricated charts and prescriptions I'd never taken. Every complaint I'd ever made was twisted into a delusion. A social worker arrived. We've had reports of erratic behavior and potential harm to your child. They handed guardianship to Megan and Tom. My protests fell on deaf ears. In the psych ward, sterile walls closing in. I pretended to take meds to get out. A fellow patient warned me, admit you're sick, get out faster. My husband David visited, conflicted. I begged him to test the brownies. He wavered. The next day, they were gone. Turns out Megan and Tom's bank got huge deposits after each child's death insurance payouts. David's face went pale, but he wouldn't act yet, doctor. Nishi tightened medication, extending my stay. Visits were suspended. Gabriella from CPS arrived. Lily will stay with family as you get treatment. Megan had turned everyone against me. Jane's tears, Tom's restraining order, they all believed me insane. Then Gabriel secretly slipped me a phone. I called the investigator. She's taking Lily to a cabin today. Alarms blared. Gabriel led me out. Investigator Max Sebastian drove me toward Pine Ridge cabin on back roads, police in hot pursuit after Megan. I called Tom. Where's the cabin? Finally, he confessed. We arrived at the deserted cabin. Lily lay motionless on the bed. Megan sat beside her, humming that lullaby. I checked Lily's pulse alive but fading and dialed 911. Paramedics and police burst in. As they arrested Megan, she spat hatred. This isn't over. I'll see you in prison. I rode with Lily to the hospital. She recovered after 18 tortuous hours. Our family, once blind, rallied to our side. The full scope emerged. 17 policies, 6 confirmed deaths, many more suspected. Megan had targeted the vulnerable children, elderly always as the grieving caretaker, always next in line for the inheritance. A tea trial, a black widow babysitter. She was convicted. Lily and I moved far away to start a new safe at last.